FOMO is starting to kick in around the globe, and skeptical billionaires are starting to lose sleep.
You know, I've not gotten involved with Bitcoin, and I wake up every day at 3 in the morning and I'm like, why am I such an idiot? What have I been waiting for, not being involved in it? And it just goes up and up.
Even the Bank of International Settlements understands that Bitcoin is different from everything else. Both billionaires and shadow banking industries realize that it's only a matter of time before the US government comes in and sends Bitcoin to the moon, solidifying it forever. And in the last 2 days, 3 high-ranking officials from the US government and members of Congress say that they're not just talking about Bitcoin anymore, but they're making moves to actually start buying it. We're going to cover some of the bullish news coming from Billionaires and the Bitcoin Policy Institute this week and explain how it's setting the table for a bullish 2025. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. Have you ever done a backflip while catching a baseball?
A pitch, and now with 2 down, Tanner Thomas digs in. Robert Anthony Cruz eyeing it up, and backflipping!
No, I have not. Have you ever lit a match with your serve in tennis?
Okay.
Yep. That's the one! That's the one. You see that back?
No, I have not. Have you ever woken up and thought, man, I'm not buying enough Bitcoin? Yes, I have. And so has billionaire Philippe Laffont from Co2 Management.
We thought of Bitcoin as a company. Today, I think Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And we're like, well, could it get to also 4 or 5 trillion? Obviously, Bitcoin's not a company. It'd be like saying if gold's a company, but I thought it was interesting as a new asset.
Yeah. Right. Market cap. Yeah.
Market cap, 2 trillion is so big.
When did you get involved in Bitcoin?
You know, I've not gotten involved with Bitcoin, and I wake up every day at 3 in the morning and I'm like, why am I such an idiot? What have I been waiting for, not being involved in it? And it just goes up and up. In the past, I think this is interesting, the retail investors, they were much faster at getting involved with Bitcoin than the institutional ones. And I always thought Bitcoin's amazing, but it's double or triple the volatility of the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's already pretty volatile. Why do I need to deal with this added volatility? Recently, Bitcoin, when it went down during the tariff, only went down as much as NASDAQ. So it seems the volatility as an asset class is coming down, which I thought was pretty interesting.
But given your sort of thesis, do you say to yourself, even at this point in the ball game, if you think it's going to double or triple and going to be part of the NASDAQ 100, if you were to think of it as a company?
Yes, I have to think about it.
That you should own it now?
Yes, I have to think about it now. Do I own it now? Do I own it tomorrow? In a few days? But every day, I do think, why do I not own it? And I think to be a good investor, it's not just like owning the obvious stock, but sometimes you have to change your mind and you have to just say, well, I made a mistake and I'm changing my mind, and maybe Bitcoin will be that.
How do you come up to that valuation? Is it as a percentage of gold's market cap or something?
So I thought like the market cap of the world, the net worth of the world is, I think, 450 to 500. True. Equities are, let's say, 120. Gold above and under the ground is 20. And then Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And I was like, okay, well, 2 trillion, let's say it represents 0.5% of the net worth of the world. Could it go to 1 or 2? Some people say, oh, Bitcoin's going to be 100 trillion. I'm like, okay, that's not, maybe a bit of an aggressive estimate, but could it double over a period of time? And then we talked about the de-dollarization of the world, the end of U.S. exceptionalism. So those would be some of the reasons.
He doesn't think Bitcoin will become a $100 trillion asset, but that's okay. He's waking up to the realization that he's been wrong about Bitcoin all along. He made a comment about the end of U.S. exceptionalism, and I think that he's right. The U.S. seems to be in decline, and that's because we haven't created or been at the forefront of the new industry taking over the world. But there is one asset that we could be the leader in, and that's Bitcoin and digital assets. And it seems like this U.S. administration is understanding the importance and why we need to be first. It's clear from the Bitcoin Policy Institute that the United States government isn't just talking about Bitcoin. but they're putting their words into action.
The Genius Act, Clarity, those are top of mind for everybody, working on digital assets in the White House. There will be the forthcoming report on the interagency activities. We've already taken some steps with the SPR. How do we follow that up with the accumulation plan? So there's no shortage of opportunities and things to do. So after we leave here, I'll get right back to it.
Digital assets executive Bo Hines says that we're not only accounting for where the Bitcoin is, but we're laying the infrastructure to start buying Bitcoin, and they're keen on doing it.
Yeah, so if you look at the EO, it did mandate an accounting to take place in which Treasury has spearheaded that. They have received the numbers from the different agencies inside of government. There are a lot of different actors that held on to some Bitcoin in some fashion or another. Now the process begins in terms of establishing the reserve, the actual infrastructure behind it, and getting all of that accomplished. There's nothing in the EO that mandates that report become public, but we could choose to make it public at some point. And we are certainly keen on the idea of accumulation. We've stated publicly that Bitcoin is digital gold. We believe it's in the best interest of the United States to garner as much as we can possibly get. I've said that at every conference that I've spoken at in the last 2 to 3 months. Now, obviously, this has to be done in budget-neutral ways that don't cost the taxpayer a dime. The president was clear about that in the executive order. But I think we have some very creative minds, 2 of which are sitting up here with me. And I think we'll begin moving very quickly on that.
Like we said in the previous episode, Bitcoin is starting to move past the media FUD that was blasted all over airwaves for the past 4 or 5 years about Bitcoin being an asset for criminals. It's an asset that has no use cases, and it's not actually real technology. 2, now we even have officials from the Bank of International Settlements recognizing that Bitcoin is separate and different from central bank digital tokens, or a unified ledger. And it's a trustless and decentralized protocol.
The unified ledger idea is pretty much separate from Bitcoin in the sense that Bitcoin is a public blockchain. It relies on this decentralized notion of trust. So rather than having trusted intermediaries, the idea is that you can somehow have a system where trust itself is decentralized and the whole system works based on the consensus as to what the underlying state of the world is, subject to the updating of the ledger through some decentralized mechanism. Whereas the vision that we have in mind is very much based on central bank money. So it's based on the trust in central bank money, the settlement finality, and the singleness, as Andrea also mentioned. I guess the common element is the functionality that results from atomic settlement and the programmability. But the programmability, the technology underlying programmability doesn't need to farm out the notion of trust to a decentralized, consensus mechanism. So I would answer your question like that.
Some of the greatest innovations happening in Bitcoin are happening around Bitcoin being used as collateral. Collateral like when you're buying a home, finally. Or it's coming into TradFi in the sense that I don't want to sell this asset as collateral. I want to borrow against this asset and use it as collateral. Well, you can do that now with Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, which allows you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. They were the first digital lender to do a digital proof of reserves. And that's why they have the trust of customers globally. After issuing 9 billion loans on an average of 18 hours from the loan application being filled out to into your account, they have 1,000 5-star customer reviews, and they are a trusted leader and player in this space. Loans start at just 12.4%. They don't have to be paid on a monthly basis. They get paid on a lump sum at the end of the loan term. And if you have extra capital, well, this is better than borrowing on credit or using 20% credit card interest rates. Oh, and it doesn't affect your credit score. Get started with loans at just 12.4%, or if you go to learn.ledn.ao/simply, well, you get 0.25% off your first loan. One of the things that the official in the BIS video clip highlighted is that Bitcoin is decentralized, and it's a protocol. And it being decentralized and being a protocol is only valuable if it's outside of the system. if it's not an IOU or a token within the system. And you can make sure that your Bitcoin isn't just a token or extension of the existing system and actual true sovereign wealth by removing your Bitcoin from third-party exchanges by taking your private keys. You can learn how to do that with a coach by scheduling a free 30-minute consultation with The Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through step-by-step how to protect your generational wealth the right way. Go to thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. The tone around Bitcoin is shifting, and this is a major development because that means that the major institutions in where our capital has been sitting for the last 20, 30, 40 years is starting to move into this new asset class. Let's go back to Philippe Laffont from Co2. They built one of the most successful venture, private, and hedge fund conglomerates in the world. They now manage over $70 billion worth of assets, and they put out one of the best annual reports that there is in the world, bar none. They recently just announced their recent annual report, where they talk about the latest trends in AI, energy, technology, and, lo and behold, the end of U.S. exceptionalism. They talk about what the next big companies, trends, and innovations are, and how that's going to lead to outperformance. But one interesting thing in this year's report is they talk about Bitcoin outperforming all major asset classes, and not only that, it's becoming less volatile.
How do you think about valuing it?
I mean, listen, but just touching back on your point. So we're looking at Bitcoin. It's like, all right, the market cap of the world, the net worth of the world is like 450, 500 trillion. Equities, I think, are like 120 or stuff. Real estate's probably another 100, 150. Then there's a value that people have in their homes. Gold is about 15 to 20 trillion above and under the ground. And then we're like Bitcoin at 2. And I'm like, God, so Bitcoin, it represents, 2 out of 500 of the net worth of the world, or 400, whatever. It moves a little bit. Could it be 4? Could it be 5? And then we're like, well, the largest company, Microsoft today, is like 3.5 trillion. Let's say that Microsoft, I don't know, doubles in 10 years. It would only be growing at 7% per year. Microsoft would be a $7 trillion company in 10 years. And could Bitcoin be 5 or 6? It's a real asset class.
Right.
And then on top of that, it's very volatile. Then on top of that, there's a lot of retail people that own it. And it almost feels like sometimes, the institutional investor is wrong and the retail investment right. Yeah. Sometimes it's the opposite. Retail gets caught in a little bit of a meme stock and it comes back down. And I don't think we can afford to ignore it anymore. So it doesn't mean like we don't really know exactly when and how to own it. And then your other point that's really interesting is sometimes you make some venture bets and they don't work. Yeah. And then you're like, shit, I just invested in the wrong trend. And in fact, sometimes you invested in the wrong company, but it is the right trend. And those bad investments cloud your judgment. And there's Bitcoin, there's stable coins, which we should talk about. Yeah. They're growing incredibly right now. And then there's all these altcoins. And you could say, okay, well, I don't like the alt and the meme coins. I don't like necessarily the collectible aspects of things, but I like stable and Bitcoin. So for us, it's more a process where we just need to become better, be willing to change our mind and stay open to the future. And those are a lot of the conversations.
They're talking about Bitcoin as one of the major leading shifts of innovation that's happening in the world. They believe that Bitcoin is going to move from being the 6th largest asset in the world to the 3rd largest asset. I think that's undershooting by a whole lot. But nonetheless, they're admitting that they're open to the future and that they've been wrong in the past. That's the first step. Bitcoin is a globally recognized technology and asset class. And like the internet or mobile or AI, it's going to be embedded and integrated into every facet of our portfolios and lives before you know it. And when that happens, the alpha and the return is no longer there. This is just the beginning. And we didn't even cover the biggest news of this week, which is the SEC chair, Hester Pierce, said that in-kind redemptions are on the horizon. They're coming. People are going to take paper Bitcoin and get real Bitcoin. I'll believe it when I see it, but it's bullish news nonetheless. We're going to cover that and price predictions for the second half of 2025 on Sunday's episode. So like, share, subscribe to make sure that you don't miss that video when it drops. If you want to continue on your Bitcoin journey in your Bitcoin education and meet Bitcoiners in real life, come down to Dallas, Texas from November 11th through November 13th to the Mining Disrupt Conference, the largest Bitcoin mining expo in the world. Use the promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off your tickets. Thanks for hanging today. Hopefully I shared some other clips other than just basketball for all of you people who think I don't read the comments. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.